Hey everybody, SomeGadgetGuy here, and multimedia playback on our phones is vitally important to most users these days. Our phones are becoming centralized hubs for most of our communication and entertainment needs. For that experience to continue improving, good audio is mandatory. Playing games, watching movies, listening to music, all of these activities suck when you have bad audio. Apple popularized the idea of including high-quality audio on our phones, baking some of their iPod DNA into the original iPhone. But the most recent iPhone I have in studio to test right now is the 4S, and I'm too small a reviewer for Apple to pay attention to me, so instead we're going to look at the best Android and Windows phones have to offer. Unfortunately, Sony is also being left off of this list, as the last Xperia I played with was last year's Z1, and like Apple, they too refused to reply to my emails. I'm sure they're pretty great, but we'll just have to make do with the top-of-the-line devices from Samsung, HTC, Nokia, and LG. And to make sure you folks understand how seriously I'm taking this test, I'll be listening to the same suite of songs I use during my speaker tests, which include rock, jazz, classical, and electronic music samples, on a pair of $700 Noble in-ear monitors. These Pro monitors are notoriously accurate, and have the ability to switch from a full, enjoyable music listening experience to a cold, stark, accurate experience, which will showcase any imperfections or impurities in any of the phones we're testing. Also, for the sake of my own hearing, as each phone is capable of different output volume, I listened first on the HTC One M8 to set a comfortable volume, then normalized the output on every other phone I had available to match that comfortable listening volume. This test is obviously not designed to be scientific or conclusive, but I wanted testing conditions to be as consistent as possible. And the great thing about doing a top 5 list with these current phones is that none of them are bad or even just okay. Multimedia playback was genuinely very good, if not great, across all of these handsets, and the differences in tone, color, noise, and volume become an ever-diminishing debate of minutia. But it's no fun if everyone just gets a participation ribbon. Let's start doling out awards.
Number 5.
The LG G Flex. LG's made some great inroads here, improving the audio experience over phones like the Optimus G Pro. The company advertises high-quality 24-bit sound during their press events, and you can certainly tell that some attention has been paid in improving the hardware experience. I start using words like pleasant and full to describe the experience, good dynamic range, and thick bass. Yet we don't lose detail in the mid-range. Where LG still needs to catch up is in the software experience, as there are no system-wide settings for tweaking audio. You're forced to use LG's music app for rudimentary EQ, and there are no cinema settings to play with that I could find. Still, it's a formidable improvement from a company hungry to carve out their own niche in the Android ecosystem.
Number 4.
Right on its heels, the LG G2. Now this is something of a cheat, as it's last year's flagship, and we only just recently got word on the LG G3. Still, the G2 continues to mix it up with much newer phones, proving to us time and time again how ahead of the curve this little wonder phone was, even compared to its own newer big brother, the Flex. Audio quality and tone are virtually identical, and we have the same criticisms over software. The G2 in our tests managed to outperform the Flex in loudness with a consistent 2 to 3 decibel advantage.
Number 3.
Welcome the Galaxy S5. Samsung is showing off some decent improvements over their flagship from last year. Louder, brighter, and punchier than the Galaxy S4, the GS5 shows us that they are paying attention to their competition, even if their advertising might indicate otherwise. No small feat, improving the audio quality while also adopting the Galaxy S4 Active's water-resistant headphone jack. While the software situation is a touch better than LG's, Samsung's system-wide offerings are a bit anemic, with only one switch available that I honestly can't hear much difference between these two settings. Samsung's dedicated music app, however, features a number of filters emulating things like tube amplification, variable room size reverberation, and virtual surround sound. It's actually kind of fun to play with, and it also includes a proper 7-band EQ for gearheads to tweak and fine-tune to their heart's content. As a brief aside before moving on to the top 2, it's around here that I would place the iPhone 5S. Now, from memory, I would likely place it either just ahead or just behind the Galaxy S5.
Number 2.
Now, folks, we've got a tie between the Nokia Lumia 1520 and the Nokia Lumia Icon. Now, this also might be considered a cheat, but these two Nokia devices perform virtually identical to each other in a variety of tests, from benchmarking to camera performance to the quad microphone arrays. It's really no surprise their headphone playback also matches up like a pair of twins. Out of the box, Nokia's are even and balanced. Excellent detail across the entire spectrum with crisp clarity defining the experience. The sound is so grounded, many might consider it a bit dull. But then you fire up the audio category and settings where you have a 7-band equalizer and presets for days, with a Dolby toggle for surround sound effects while watching movies, and a normalizing plugin to balance the changes in volume between audio tracks. It's a terrific combination of hardware and software, which elevates the entire audio experience on the phone, at once sophisticated and refined, but allowing the listener to get as raw and dirty as they want to go.
Number 1.
All hail the HTC One M8. I had a really difficult time deciding on the top spot and swapped the M8 with the Lumias a number of times before finally deciding on HTC for the win. It came down to two important aspects. The out-of-the-box experience on the Lumias is very conservative, and HTC's boom sound makes an aggressive first impression. Some might find it a little too hyped and affected with EQ tweaks and stereo widening tricks, but I genuinely found it to be an interesting music listening experience. I don't believe these software tricks help classical and jazz as much as rock, hip-hop, and electronica, but thankfully they don't detract much from the experience either. HTC also stands apart by offering up noticeably louder hardware than the Lumias. Nokia's offerings were about 1 to 2 decibels louder than Samsung, which in turn was about a decibel louder than the G2. HTC was 5 to 7 decibels louder than the Nokia in our tests. You can't really use that much gain. It's just not possible using good earbuds to listen that loud without it being painful and potentially damaging your hearing. But it means you're apt to have a slightly better signal-to-noise ratio when playback is normalized between these various handsets. And for brief periods of time, that volume can really come in clutch if you're fighting outside noise. Volume advantage aside, however, the rankings on this shootout easily could swing another way if you happen to value the customizations Nokia and Samsung offer up, as HTC's only option is to enable or disable boom sound. Thankfully, while conducting this test, I was happy to see that last year's handsets haven't been completely outclassed yet either. I'd easily add some of the Lumia 920s and 1020s to the end of this list as honorable mentions, and last year's HTC M7 easily goes toe-to-toe with Samsung's offerings this year. So while the M8 is our current shootout champ, we're waiting out a few more devices towards the end of this year which will shake up this list, like the next Galaxy Note, the LG G3. We might even see some refinement from the Lumia 930. And you should never count out Apple as we wait to see what they have up their sleeves for the next iPhone. As always, folks, thanks so much for watching my videos, sharing my videos, subscribing to my channel, hitting that thumbs up button, and leaving me all those great comments down below my videos. I always love the discussion we get into, and I will catch you all on the next review.